Good morning, students of class 10. Welcome back to the classes now. Let's learn history. History means the story of the past. In the past, people had made many mistakes. We will learn that and we'll learn from their mistakes. We will not repeat the same mistakes. If we are thoughtless, if we do not think, we'll make the same mistakes. Therefore, it is said that history repeats. Why? Because we have not learned any lesson from them. So we must learn a lesson from those past mistakes so that we will not repeat the same mistakes. History is a story of the past having full of mistakes people have made. But now we will learn about the nationalist movement in Indochina, the French occupied Vietnam, Indochina, a land of Vietnam, Laos and Cambodia. These three places, Laos, Cambodia and Vietnam, were under the French colony, under French government. So the French also made a lot of mistakes. Even our country, India, was also colonized by the Britishers. They have made a lot of mistakes. We should not forget and we should not repeat the same mistakes in our life, in our everyday life. So let us learn about 4.0, religion and anti-colonialism. So now we have seen that the Europeans, they colonized various parts of the world, and these various parts of the world, the people of those native places, they had their own culture, their own religion, their tradition, their beliefs, and the colonialism had affected their culture, trade, tradition, religion, even their everyday life. Everything was affected. So now here we will talk about, there are altogether 6 points. We will talk about the colonial domination in Vietnam, Indochina, Laos, Cambodia and Vietnam. The colonial domination was exercised over all spheres of private and public life. In every private and public life was affected because of the colonizers. Because they had their own tradition, culture and everything, and the native people had their own culture, tradition, belief and religion. So naturally there was a clash, since Europeans considered themselves as superior than the native places. Moreover, the French, they wanted to modernize the native people of Vietnam. In order to modernize them, the native people have to give up their religion, they have to give up their tradition, culture, and even their belief, the way of eating, way of dressing. Everything has to be removed in order to modernize them. So let us see, we have in the previous classes we have learned that French, they thought that it is their mission to civilize the people of Vietnam. So naturally there was a clash. So the French occupied Vietnam militarily. They brought their troops and they occupied militarily, but they also sought means tried to reshape means modernize social and cultural life. They wanted to reshape their social life and cultural life and even their religion and beliefs. So French thought that they were doing the right thing, and the native people thought that the colonizers are against them. They are destroying their identity, they are destroying their culture and belief and religion. And on the other hand, French thought that it is our mission to modernize. Since we are superior, it is our duty and responsibility to civilize them. You see there, and there was a clash. So while religion played an important role in strengthening colonial control. So the French thought that their old way of belief worshipping the land, worshipping the trees, worshipping the nature. It's all out of date. So in this way they cannot be modernized. In order to modernize, they have to give up all these beliefs. And since we are superior and we follow Christianity, so religion played an important role in strengthening, tightening their grip, colonial control, tightening their grip in Vietnam, Indochina. So to tightening their control, the religion played an important role. What happened? It also provided ways. While they introduced Christianity there, the native people, it also provided native people ways of resistance. The native people resisted, and it provided resistance against the new religion. Now here, as Vietnam's religious belief, we know that in Vietnam, most of the Vietnam was covered with hills and dense forest, and the people live in different areas. Some live in the valleys, some live in the mountain areas, and they have their own belief and tradition and culture. So as Vietnam's religious belief were a mixture of Buddhism there in Indochina, in Vietnam, Laos, Cambodia, people followed Buddhism, Confucianism. We had learned that Chinese influence was there, Confucianism, and local practices were also there. So they had their own belief and tradition, culture, as well as their own religion and so on. So there was the society there, the native people, they believe Buddhism, Confucianism, and local practices. So now here the French brought Christianity. Christianity introduced by French. The Christianity introduced by the French missionaries. French missionaries. Missionaries means the people or the group of people who preach, who teach new religion. French missionaries was intolerant. Intolerant. They do not tolerate. That it means they do not tolerate the old system. The old system has to be removed. So they were intolerant of this old system, of this easygoing attitude. The people of Vietnam, they were easygoing. Easygoing means careless. They never thought of modernizing themselves. So of this easygoing attitude, and viewed the Vietnamese respect. Vietnamese, they used to respect the nature. They used to respect to the supernatural. Supernatural means their own belief in gods and supernatural as something to be corrected. So the French, they thought that whatever they believe, it has to be corrected in order to modernize them. They had their own primitive ways of belief, way of worshipping, way of praying, and their culture and traditions, way of living. It has to be corrected, the French thought. And one way is to introduce Christianity. So, from 18th century, now you can see it, let me bend a little bit. From 18th century onwards, 18th century, many religious movements were hostile. There in Vietnam, many religious community, religious movements, Vietnamese native people, they started religious movements, and they were hostile. Hostile means they used to attack. Hostile, aggressive, you can say that. And they were hostile to the Western presence. They were very much aggressive. Why? Because they thought that it is an attack towards their identity. It is an attack to their own belief and culture. So that's why they were aggressive or hostile towards the Western presence against the French. The early movement was Scholars' Revolt in 1868. So the early religious movement was the scholars' revolt in Vietnam or Indochina in 1868. They started the revolt against the French, as they thought that it is an attack towards their culture, belief and identity. That's why they started revolting against the French. So you see, there was a clash between the modern French or modern Europeans and the native people of Vietnam or in Indochina. So not only in this part, this type of situation, this type of misunderstanding, clashes took place in almost all colonies around the world, because the native people, they had their own way of living, they had their own culture, tradition and belief. So naturally, when the colonizers came there and they started their own religion, and they even tried to teach them or influence them, naturally the colonizers, they thought that it is their mission, or they thought that they were superior. So naturally the native people, they thought that these people, they came over here and disturbed us, or our identity and culture or our religion is at stake, is in danger, they thought. And in this way there was an uprising and there was revolts, and many battles were even fought. The arguments were there, and many people sacrificed even their lives in order to protect their identity, culture, religion and even their country. So in this way, history teaches us people, they have made mistakes, and we should not repeat those mistakes again and again and again, because until and unless we do not think and act, we'll make the same mistakes again. So history, we learned history, it is not an attack towards a certain section or a certain country. It is a story that the people had made mistakes in ancient times, so that in modern times we should not repeat the same mistakes over again. So history teaches us a lot of things. So that's all for today. Thank you for your presence and for your attentiveness. You have paid so much attention, you have listened carefully, paid attention, so that you will learn something. So that's all for today. We'll meet in the next class and continue our lesson from the scholars' revolt of 1868. There the religious movement started, as they thought that it was an attack towards their identity and religion and culture. So let's end today over here, and we'll continue in our next class. Thank you very much for today.